Hello my dear students, welcome again to a new lesson with تعليم platform and me محمد السليم. مرحبا بكم طلاب السادس الاعدادي، درس جديد من دروس اللغة الانجليزية معي أنا الاستاذ محمد السليم على منصة تعليم التفاعلية. Our lesson today is past simple and past continuous. Lesson 2 Unit 1. أول موضوع قواعد إن شاء الله رح ناخذه الخاص بمنهاج السادس. So let's begin. Past simple and past continuous is an action that happened in the past intersecting another action that was going on continuously in the past. So, to understand what is the relationship between those two tenses, you need to understand that there was an action going on continuously in the past and another action just come in the middle of it and intersecting that action. It might stop the first action completely or it's just an intersection. Let's see in a different way. Let's see this graphic. Imagine this arrow is representing the continuous action that was happening in the past. Of course, the period of time here doesn't matter if it was a long action or a small action. What matters is that another action comes in the middle of it and intersect it. As you can see, we can name the small action or the second action as the short action. And the previous action that was going on continuously, we can use it as the long action. Before we start taking further information about those two tenses together, we need to make a review about each tense alone, the past simple and the past continuous. عزيزي الطالب، قبل ما ندخل في تفاصيل ربط هذه الزمنين مع بعض واستخدام الأدوات الخاصة في ربطها، نحتاج أن نراجع مواضيع مستقلة للماضي البسيط وللماضي المستمر، لأن احنا راح نتعامل مع أقواس نحتاج أن نفتحها بالقاعدة الصحيحة لكلا الزمنين. So let's begin with the past simple. As you know, past simple represent an action that happened in the past and ended. يمثل حدث وقع في الماضي وانتهى من دون أي مشاكل أو أي شيء آخر يستحق الذكر. Every tense has three basic forms. كل زمن بيه ثلاث قواعد أساسية. Affirmative المثبت, negative النفي, question الاستفهام. You need to understand every one of it because it's very important at the examination time to deal with the brackets. مهم جدا بالامتحان تعرف القوس اللي راح يجيك بالامتحان شيء يمثل الإثبات أم النفي أو الاستفهام، ولهذا تحتاج أن تتذكر هذه القواعد حتى تقدر تتعامل مع القوس بشكل سهل. نبدأ أولا بحالة الإثبات affirmative case. As you can see, the affirmative case for the past simple can prevented or can be seen as subject in the beginning, which is الفاعل, then P, the past form of the verb. How you can make this past form of the verb? You can make it from different things. First, you can have it from irregular verbs. Like if you have verb see and you want to change it into the past form, that's gonna be saw. As you can see now, the verb completely changed into a different word. Pay. If you want to change it to the past form, it's gonna be paid. That's kind of verbs we called irregular verbs. It changes completely when it transformed into the past form. تتغير بشكل كبير عندما تتحول إلى الماضي البسيط. The second choice is regular verbs, الأفعال الاعتيادية. You can change a regular verb by adding d only, or ed, or ied, depending on the verb you have. إذا ممكن أن نغير الفعل المجرد إلى الفعل الماضي بالأفعال الاعتيادية عن طريق إضافة فقط ال d أو ال ed أو ال ied حسب نهاية الفعل. Like, if you have this verb, love, and you want to make it a past form, all you have to do is add the d. If you have a regular verb like play, all you have to do is add an ed to it, so it becomes a past form. Sometimes you have verbs that ends with the y letter and comes before it a correct letter. You have to change the y into I, then you put your ed. عزيزي الطالب، تحتاج أن تنتبه إلى هذه التحويلات لأنه تكون مهمة عندك بالامتحان الوزاري لما تتعامل مع الأقواس. الحالة الثالثة أو the third case, the verb to be. The verb to be in the past form can be into two different things. First is was, or you can make it as were. That depends on the subject that lies before them. If the subject was he, or she, or it, or a singular subject, you can use was. But if the subject was you or we or they or plural subject, you can use where. Don't forget also the I comes here. I take was too. So at the examination time, you need to pay a very good attention about the brackets you are dealing with, especially at the affirmative situation, أو حالة الإثبات. First, you need to look for the verb to be because it's very different, either was or were. Then you need to look at the verb, is it a regular verb or irregular verb? Because everyone changes into the past form in a different way. Example for this form, I enjoyed the lesson last time. As you can see now, we have a subject, which is I, and then the P, or the past form of the verb, enjoyed. Let's take the other case, which is the negative situation. In the negative form for the past simple, as you can see, we use the auxiliary verb did, added to it not, so it's didn't or did not, then followed by the base form. Remember, my dear student, it's the base form, not P. It is very important. Also, at the examination time, how you are supposed to know it is a negative situation, you pay good attention to the brackets you have at the sentence. It should have not, then the verb. I didn't enjoy the lesson last time. Here, the subject doesn't affect anything. No matter what the subject is, all you need to do is put the didn't, then put the same verb exactly in position. At the question form, we make the auxiliary verbs at the beginning, then the subject, then the verb. Example, did you enjoy the lesson last time? You can see, my dear student, that did now, it's in the beginning. Then you have the subject over here, then the base form of the verb. Remember, my dear students, never change the verb and the negative and the question form. Only the affirmative form, you need to change the verb into the past form. Let's take some examples for the past simple, because in the examination time, they can just ask you about the past simple without being joined with the past continuous. As an example, Ali, and you can find between two brackets the base form, as you can see. At the exam time, if you see the verb only inside the brackets, that's mean you are going to use the affirmative situation, حالة الإثبات. And look what they ask from you at the end of the question. Past simple. That means now you have to solve this brackets in the past simple and in the affirmative situation. Now you need to look at the verb very closely. Is that verb to be? No, it isn't. So what is it? Is it a regular or irregular verb? C is an irregular verb. So you need to keep that in mind, that irregular verbs, you have to be in your heart. There is no rule to keep it in mind, but to have it in your heart. So C will be so. Let's take another example. This time, as you can see the brackets, it's not and V. That's mean you are going to use the negative situation. But here you have correct. It doesn't tell you what kind of tense you are going to use. In this situation, you have to look for a timeline in the sentence. A timeline like yesterday always refer to the past simple. So you made your decision to make past simple, and your decision also going to be negative because you have not and V. So the solution will be didn't see. As you can see, we use the didn't, and we use the same verb without any changes. Another example, also using the correct, which is you don't know what tense you have to do or deal with here, but the timeline yesterday also refers to the past simple. But this time you have in the brackets the subject and the V. That means you are at the question situation. And if you miss that also, you can just look simply to the question mark over here. It's going to tell you that you need to deal with the question form. Remember, my dear student, in the past simple, you need to make the auxiliary verb first, then the subject, then the base form. So, did Ali see? Now let's take the past continuous. The past continuous represent two main things in the past. If you want to talk about an action that took a period of time to finish in the past, you can use this sentence. Or you can use it as our subject today when something happened through another action. In this case, it doesn't matter how long the past continuous is. What matters is make it continuous to show what happens in it. Also, let's check the three basic forms for it. Let's start with the affirmative. For the affirmative case, subject going to be the first. Then we're going to use was and were and V plus ing. The VING here refers to the continuous form of any tense. So if you have a future continuous or present continuous, they're all going to have the V plus ing. Was or were here represent the past, so we have a past continuous. Also, choosing the was or were depends on the subject itself. If it is singular subject, you can use was. Plural subject, you can use were. Example, they were speaking to the teacher. As you can see here, we have a subject in a plural situation. So it took were, exactly. Then the V compare himself with the ing to make it a continuous action, speaking to the teacher. Another example, she was speaking to the teacher. You can notice here, my dear student, that the subject now is in a singular situation. So singular situation must take was. So what you're going to do in the exam time when you have this V in the brackets, the was or were is your responsibility to add according to the subject. Then the V over here, you need to add ing to it to have the right solution. Let's look at the negative situation. In the negative situation, the form is like this. Subject plus was and were plus not plus V plus ing. So adding the not here to the previous form, change it into a negative situation. Of course, at the examination time, you can find the bracket as not and V. That's how you know you need to solve in negative situation. عزيزي الطالب انتبه دائما إلى شكل القوس لأن هو اللي راح يحدد الحالة اللي تستخدمها في الزمن المطلوب. You can see in this example, they weren't speaking to the teacher. Here we use not to make the negative situation. Another example, she wasn't speaking to the teacher. Also, we use not to make a negative situation. In the question form, was and were as an auxiliary verb gonna be at first, will be at the beginning, then followed by the subject, then the V, then the ing. The brackets at the examination time will be subject V, or you just simply look at the question mark at the end. Let's take some example formed in this formula. Was he speaking to the teacher? You can see here we have a question form starting with was. We chose was because the subject here is singular subject. Then the V you have in the brackets, you can add ing to it and get it into the sentence. Was he speaking to the teacher? Were they speaking to the teacher? All we do, we just change the subject, so we change the were instead of was. Plural subject, they took were. Now, my dear student, let's go back to the main subject we have here, is connecting those two tenses together. When you need to connect two things together, of course, you're going to need a conjunction tools. Conjunction tools is something that bond the two tenses together. أدوات الربط هي الأساس التي سوف تربط الجملتين مع بعض. In this tenses, we have four conjunction tools. We have when and we can categorize those together. And we have while and as. Also, we can put those together because they have the same behavior or the same action. ممكن أن نصنفهن إلى هذه المجموعتين عزيزي الطالب لأنها تحمل نفس الصفات في الجملة. When and always followed by the past simple. We can represent it as an ed for short. And the previous will be ing, the past continuous. For those other two, while and as, they're always followed by an ing, and the other side will be the ed. This is a very important section in this subject. You need to understand that those are the key you can use to solve this questions or problems. عزيزي الطالب، حفظك لأدوات الربط هذه والأزمنة التي تكون قبلها وبعدها هو أساس حلك في هذا الموضوع، هي مفتاح الحل لك. راح تبحث عنها في كل جملة تجيك بالامتحان حتى تقدر تحدد على أساسها الأزمنة اللي موجودة على جانبي هذه الجملة. Let's not forget also that when and while and as can become in the middle, but if they come in the front, only when and while and as will be available, and cannot be used except in the middle. Let's take some example now showing the conjunction tools, how it works, and also let's see where is the long action and where is the short action. As you can see, the conjunction tool here is and as you know that after it is ed and before it is an ing. So an ing is representing the long action. I was ice skating. I fell over represent the short action. So at the examination time, you give this side the past simple and you give the other side the past continuous. You need to know, my dear student, عزيز الطالب يحتاج أن تعرف هاي المعلومة. In this kind of questions, you have two barriers to cross. The first barrier is to know the tense time. You need to know which side is past simple and which side is the past continuous. This barrier you're going to cross it by looking at the conjunction tools. إذن هذا الحاجز عزيزي الطالب أو الخطوة الأولى في الحل راح تجتازها بكل سهولة عن طريق النظر إلى أدوات الربط. راح تحدد لك الأزمنة اللي أنت تحتاجها. The second barrier is to open the brackets correctly أن تفتح الأقواس بشكل صحيح، وهذا اللي احنا سويناه قبل لحظات لما راجعنا الأزمنة بحالاتها الثلاثة: الإثبات والنفي والاستفهام. So this question solved in two stages. Each one have 1 mark at the examination. Another example: I was having my lunch when the phone rang. As you can see now, the conjunction tool is when, followed by the past simple. And the other side, we have the past continuous. Never forget, my dear student, that these are the keys you need to solve any question. Next, as they were having a tour, it began to rain. You can see now the conjunction tool now is in the beginning. So after it, immediately gonna be the ing tense, and the other part of the tense going to take the ed. So if the conjunction tool comes in the beginning, the two sentences will be connected through this comma. You need to know that every conjunction tool has the same attitude or the same action, actually. Always what comes after it stay the same. So the long action now is in the beginning, and the short action is after the comma. We can see now we are using the while as a conjunction tool, and as you know, my dear student, while takes after it an ing tense, then the ed on the other side. The long action now is the first tense. I was sitting. Ahmed called me. This is the short action. Imagine that Ahmed called me for a very important thing. Now the first action, me being sitting waiting for anything, could be end if this call was very important. إذا كان هذا الاتصال اللي إجا من أحمد مهم جدا، ممكن الفعل الأول الآن ينتهي terminated immediately. وإذا كان هذا الاتصال شيء بسيط a regular call، الفعل الأول راح يبقى مستمر. The first action will keep going. لنأخذ الآن بعض التمارين الخاصة وطريقة شكل الكتابة لهذا السؤال بالامتحان الوزاري. مهم جدا أن تتعرف على شكل السؤال عزيزي الطالب. So please pay very good care and attention for this question. As you can see, you have two brackets here, and they will ask you from the examination to put one verb in the past continuous. One of those two should be in the past continuous, and one in the past simple. So the other should be in the past simple. Now you need to cross the first barrier. You have to cross the first barrier. لازم تعبر الحاجز الأول. Which side is the past simple and which side is the past continuous? You have the key in your hand, which is the conjunction tool. Remember that and always comes after it the past simple. So the other side took the past continuous. Now all you need to do is open those brackets without any mistakes. Remember, finding the verb inside the brackets alone. That's mean it's affirmative case. Here also to affirmative case. So at the first sentence now you need to put the past continuous in affirmative case. Then on the other side the past simple in the affirmative case. So the solution is I was thinking. We choose was because the subject I is a singular. Now the verb think, take an ing to be continuous. So I was thinking about you and then you rang me. As you can see now, the other verb is a regular verb. So ring becomes rang. Let's take another example. This example have a different style at the examination. What they do now, they try to make it harder a little bit. يحاولون عزيزي الطالب أن يصعبون عليك شوية السؤال. يشبه الحالة القبلة, just like the previous question, but this time the verbs are outside the tenses أو the sentence. Sorry. المرة هذه إنه الأفعال خلوك يا خارج الجملة. فأنت لازم تقرأ الجملة وتفهمها من المعنى وترجع كل فعل إلى مكانه حتى يرجع السؤال طبيعي مثل السؤال الأول. So they in the desert when they a large snake. People in the desert usually camp. And people also usually see the snake. So when you put back those verbs into position, you now have the same style as the first question. You need to look now for the conjunction tool, which is when. So this verb gonna take the past simple, and this one gonna take the ing or the past continuous. So the solution is they were camping in the desert when they saw a large snake. As you can see, the first bracket, we put where because we have a plural subject, they, and we put an ing to the camp, so it's camping. Also on the other side, we have the verb see, which is also irregular, so see becomes saw. Another question. While he, then another bracket, skate, he fell over. Put one verb in the past continuous and one in the past simple. You can see here one side is already solved. So all you need to do now here, deal with the brackets. The conjunction tool is while. كل اللي عليك أن تتعامل وياه عزيزي الطالب هو فقط مع القوس، الجزء المحلول تتركه وما لك علاقة به. while دائما يأتي بعدها ال ing أو ال past continuous. بما أنه الفعل أيضا verb only inside the brackets, so affirmative case. لذا فإن الحل سوف يكون was skating. he من الفاعل المفرد يأخذ ال was والskating نحذف ال e ونضيف ال ing. Another type of a questions. This type of a question you can see at the question 2 branch B. هذا النوع من الأسئلة يجيك بالامتحان الوزاري بسؤال القواعد اللي هو السؤال الثاني لكن في الفرع B تحديدا. الفكرة هو الآن اختيار الكلمة المناسبة من داخل القوس. We were driving to the beach when we heard a loud crash. This is represent also the past simple and the past continuous subject. So when you have when, you need to choose after when the past simple, which is this word. That's it, my dear students, for today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you soon in the next one.